As part of the House Judiciary Committee, my first guest has been at the forefront of the efforts to root out corruption and partisanship in high places. This week, he grilled former FBI Director James Comey, as well as the CEO of Google. Here to tell us all that that's about is Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, who, for full disclosure, is my congressman, and I've supported him in all of his elections, proudly so. Congressman, thanks for being with us. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Governor.
I want to get right into this because you had a couple of big events this week. One, Jim Comey behind closed doors. 251 times he says he could not remember. How does a person who sits at the top of the FBI, who has such perfect recollection to write a book and to go to forums and talk all about the things that he remembers talking to Donald Trump about, is suddenly unable to remember 251 different things before members of Congress like yourself?
In a lot of ways, Jim Comey was hard to pin down. I think that what we've really got to do in the final days of Republican oversight is understand the extent of the pollution and toxicity that he brought to the FBI. You know, Governor, there's an investigation undergoing right now about the extent to which the FBI under Comey was leaking and trying to shape public opinion by giving morsels of information to reporters. That's not the FBI we want. That's not the FBI we need. I want an FBI that conducts investigations and then holds people accountable who've broken laws, not an FBI that's more focused on what's in the New York Times and in the Wall Street Journal.
Well, after talking to your committee and basically not remembering a thing, he was at a public forum just a few days later in New York, and he remembered very vividly sending, as he called it, quote, a couple of guys, end quote, over to the White House to interview General Mike Flynn, not telling him that he was subject of an investigation, telling him it was just a casual conversation, that he didn't need an attorney, that it was all just kind of a nice little get to know you. One of those agents that he sent over there was the infamous Peter Strzok. Now, this whole thing just smells to high heaven. Congressman, how can you root this stuff out, expose it to the public, and maybe restore the good name of a public servant like Mike Flynn?
With Jim Comey, I think that he took advantage of a government that was in transition, and even the Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, appointed by Obama, a Democrat, said it was entirely inappropriate to have Peter Strzok, after Strzok had been involved in crafting the exoneration statement for Hillary Clinton, to then have Strzok interviewing Michael Flynn, opening up on Papadopoulos and starting this crazy Trump-Russia story. It really shows a lack of adherence to protocol, and those protocols exist for a reason. The reason that we have rules and procedures for the FBI is because even under the most tense and stressful and high-profile of circumstances, we want the system of justice to work fairly for everyone. Here, Comey clearly oversaw a yellow brick road for Hillary Clinton, and then he used every devious act he could to try to get leverage on people who then might say something unflattering about the president.
Well, there was a lot of attempt to go after not just the president, but people around him, whether it was Steve Bannon, whether it was General Flynn, Michael Cohen, a whole bunch of people who've been in the crosshairs. And, you know, you just have to wonder. Paul Manafort is another one. Where are the Democrats? And here's what I mean by that, Matt. There was an enormous level of clear indication that during the Obama administration, they knew that Russia was trying to hack into the elections and did nothing about it. There was the clandestine meeting that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch had on the tarmac with Bill Clinton, and then right after that, amazingly, no charges were ever filed about Hillary and her private server. I could go on and on. You get the gist. You're a member of Congress. Is anything going to come of holding the other side to the same standard that they seem to be intent on holding Republicans to?
Well, actually, it's in Little Rock, Arkansas, Governor, where the FBI field office is, I believe, hard at work on the Uranium One matter, where there was a pay-to-play scheme for the Clintons, where you could have special access and special favors at the State Department if you were part of raising and funneling money into their foundation that enriched their personal lifestyles and the things that they enjoyed doing. And so I think that the best chance we have to answer your question in the affirmative is to get the politicians out of the way, get the bureaucrats and the folks at the FBI inside the Beltway out of the way, and let our people with high integrity at our FBI field offices around the country gather the facts without a partisan lens. And I think if we do that, we can get results.
I watched you this week with great pride as you challenged the CEO of Google in a public hearing. And it's pretty apparent that Google has been throttling back on conservative content, but he stood there and laughingly said, oh no, we don't have any bias at Google. I mean, how credible is it that he would sit there and say to your face that they're unbiased?
What I can tell you, Governor, is that within Google, they establish chat rooms for their employees to collaborate and discuss ideas and make plans for changes to the algorithm and the source code. And one of the groups that is set up is called the Resist Group, where people actually collaborate about ways in which they can use their job to disrupt and blunt the effects of the Trump presidency. Now, that to me is something that you would at least want to have internal oversight over and internal investigations over. I'm not one that thinks that every time we have a problem, we need to go and find a way for the government to create a new regulation, but I certainly would have been more encouraged if we would have heard Google acknowledge that there is bias out on the left coast, and then they were really taking actions to create a diverse board or a group of people that could audit whether or not people's individual views were affecting the search experience for people all over the world.
But if they don't do something, if they don't begin to self-police, is Congress willing, do they have the guts to step in and at least say, if you're going to be a campaign tool for one side, you're going to have to play by all the disclosure rules, and your various contributions will be an in-kind to the Democratic Party. Is that possible to happen?
It's a fascinating legal theory. When Twitter shadow banned me, and they did not do so to my opponents because I'm an effective conservative, I actually filed an elections complaint against Twitter alleging the very claims that you've made, that it is an inappropriate contribution to allow some people to have access to a platform to a greater degree than their opponents. So we'll see how the Elections Commission rules on that case, but it may have implications beyond Twitter for Facebook, Google, and other major technology platforms.
Always great to have you here. Merry Christmas to you and your family. And my thanks to Representative Matt Gaetz for being here and fighting for a fair media space as well as security for our personal information. You can keep up with him online at gaetz.house.gov and on Twitter at Rep. Matt Gaetz, all right there on your screen.